This is the video for Friday, January the 29th, and the McClellan oscillator on Friday did pop up as we expected because it was really oversold. But remember we said in the video that it was possible that it could drop again because we've seen that happen back here all the time. You're never really clear until you've made 2 days in a row above this oversold line. And even then, there are instances where you turn back, but not usually. Usually it does go up to the middle line, the neutral line. We did drop back, but it wasn't as bad as the previous Thursday. So the short selling is not over yet with GameStop, and Goldman Sachs says that if this continues, it could cause a real problem with the market. And that being because the original short sellers have gotten out, took a big bath, but in order to raise the money to buy GameStop that they had sold at $18 to $20 and had to buy back over $100, $200, they had to sell something else. And the stocks that were sitting there ripe with profit one of them was Apple. So selling Apple, as I'm sure they did, they were able to raise the cash to buy their GameStop and close their position, but they're driving the price of Apple down. We'll look at the Apple chart in a second. It did bounce back nicely after the market, but at one point it was down to about $132. So these hedge funds know that they can come back and pick up Apple for a pretty sweet price. This was a stock that was over, we'll look at it in a second. But anyways, look at the S&P. There's some interesting stuff here. Let's put in the whole Ichimoku, not just the Chiku. And we said that we were looking at the 50. Remember we had these two green lines in here. And what were they? They were coming down and finding support on the 50. And that's definitely what happened. Not the 50 simple moving average, but the 50 extended moving average. And that's where it found support. Where was its lowest point in the day? That second green line that we drew on Thursday night. That's right at the top of this candle. So both of those green lines where we were expecting to find support in the market, we did find support. So that's a good sign. That together with the McClellan oscillator sets us up for a nice bounce on Monday or Tuesday. But by the end of the week, we very well could come down and test the cloud. I don't think we're going to come down through the 8 and test the 50 with the Chiku. I think the cloud should be ample support, but it'll be a second place of support if we do go into the cloud. Apple. Well, let's look at the volatility index first because that is important. The volatility index has been spiking, and this was Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Let's get rid of the RSI bars here, but you can see that the volatility index is still moving higher. Now, not as high as it was on Wednesday, but it's still moving higher yesterday at a range of 8 points on Friday. It's now over 33, so it's certainly out of this safe area here, and it's into this worrisome area up here. But we are not making the highs that we made back in October. Apple. Click. Let's take a look at Apple. So Apple had an average day. It didn't underperform the market in terms of relative strength. So we've got this blue bar. Where did we find ourselves? We found the Chiku span at the worst point of the day, right here. I'm not able to draw a green line. What is that? Anyhow, it would be right where? Right here. So the Chiku span almost came down to touch this cloud, this candle, but it found support, and it found support with buyers above the 50. That's a good sign. So buyers are hanging out above the 50 because they want to get in on the action as the price goes up because everybody's sitting at the 50. So they wanted to be in there earlier, and they created that little bounce there. So the Chiku span, let's look at the whole cloud here. And we can see that the cloud could come into play next week and be support. And that would be a great thing. This is the kind of thing that we look for as buying opportunities. Z, which I cleared my position on, and some analysts just gave it a good rating. I think it was seeking alpha. I don't really pay much attention to the blogger folks on tip ranks tend to look more at the big market analysts that are 4 stars and 4.5 stars, 5 stars. But tip ranks is just a great site. So we've got this Gartley pattern that's complete, and it pulled back. This is what we expected. I got out just before it closed the Gartley, but I got out with a profit. It's not a stock that I wanted to hold on to. It didn't take off like I thought it would. Probably saw this Gartley pattern too late, but now that I see it, that target of 50 was good to get out of. And look where the top of that Gartley is, 78.6. You know, these things don't happen by coincidence. Square is taking a beating. This is an up stock, down stock. It's very, very wild. At one point in the day, it was as high as 226, and it closed the day down at 214. It had a range of $13. Closed the day down $1.26. Overall, not too bad, but it really was looking good. I was able to roll all of my short calls on Thursday. Didn't do it Friday. Rolled them on Thursday when the stock had its pop. So we're still looking for Square is still a long stock for us. Still like it's still only 300 shares. Don't know if I'll get back in any greater than that unless these shares get taken away from me, which they would at 60 and 65. NIO is still a great stock. Some hedge fund bought big time into Tesla and NIO. Take a look for that. I found it on tip ranks, but you might find it on the internet as well. Have we come back to close this gap? We could say we've closed it. I'm going to say that it's closed, close enough. We are still just above the 8 EMA there. The Chiku span is way out into the open. It's still a stock that has momentum behind it. Let's take a look at the volume. The volume has been relatively low now for 2 weeks. So it's day traders that are playing in there. This is a stock that the institutions are not dumping. This is a stock that's day traded with a range of fairly steep ranges every day. So that's a clear sign that there's day trading going on. Cyber, which we're not into, still hasn't broken that pennant. I don't think I'm going to play this one. Plug. What I did on Friday is on the weakness of Plug, I sold next week's 70 calls. And that turned out to be a good move because the day finished off with Plug rather disappointing. And those short calls are now yielding, well, at one time they were yielding a profit of are now yielding a profit of $441. And there's still $549 of premium left to dissolve next week. So sticking to my plan, buying stock and at the appropriate time selling calls. And these are pretty, for me, deep in the money calls because my average cost is 61 and these would get taken away from me at $70. But at the low of the day, we came back and we tested the top of this gap. You could call this gap finished between this tail, and the fact that we had the bounce here means it's probably people still have their eye on the gap, so I'm going to leave it there. And the pennant still basically continues. If I were to extend that pennant out, something like this, we're still in that pennant squeeze. CVS, really disappointing, doing nothing. They're not taking part like they should be in the COVID thing. Rocket, using the cloud as support. Home Depot, wide-ranging day as well, but not underperforming or not overperforming the market with the RSI bars. Let's just finish off by looking at some of the other new stocks. Here's GME. I mean, look at the range on that. At one point, it was trading for 248. At one point, it was trading for 414. So pick your poison. Not something I like to do. URI closed its gap here. And we want to keep an eye on that for an infrastructure play. But since we lost this pennant, we're not going to rush into it. Nice that it closed that gap and it found support exactly in between the 250s. Let's just take a quick look at the Chiku span. Chiku span is there. Let's take a look at the whole Ichimoku. And the Ichimoku, you can see where the Chiku got a break here, getting support on the 8. This is a stock to keep an eye on, but only when there's more talk of infrastructure, and that's not going to come until the 1.9 trillion stimulus is talked about. So it won't be until late April, May, or June. Might even go as long as September. But look at this breakout, and we've got another position, another pattern forming with SONO. Maybe eventually we just got to get into this stock. But if we draw our typical patterns here, this one is not a pennant. This is more a flag type, and we can see it. Let me get rid of the info thing here. Let's just keep talking. Anyways, it is in this channel. So you've got this flagpole here, and you've got this flag. The other one was a pennant, triangle position. This is a pennant, this is a flag. And look at that, it's just moving along in this channel. When it breaks out of the channel, that's when we want to jump into this stock. We've been watching SONO now, and I haven't been into it, but I think it's about time just for a quick move. I'm going to create an alert. Oh, don't want to do that. I'm going to create an alert when it crosses the top line. And that would be 27.57. And then we would add more once it gets up above 28.65. Any of the other new stocks that we want to take a look at? No. Let's look at VERU. VERU has broken out of this flag, but not convincingly. It's still not above where we set the alert for 9.50. So not getting into that one either. Monday is setting up interesting, and I think Monday we're going to see an up day. It's going to depend on the pressure coming from GameStop and some of the other high squeeze short positions. But look for, the important here is the McClellan oscillator that we showed, as well as the S&P getting its support at the 50 and the Chiku span on the candles. So that's where you want to start worrying, when the Chiku span gets below the 8 and below the candles. Then we're going to see the resistance. Even if we get support on the cloud, we still could see the market go sideways for a while until we get the momentum for the Chiku span to break up through the candles. Thank you.